How did you manage your mental well-being before discovering running during the pandemic versus now? Because I know that you've learned a lot of lessons through this journey that you've been on, but we all develop and evolve as human beings, and I can imagine running taught you an awful lot, but what was it like pre-pandemic? Could you rely on exercise to support your own mental health, or did you struggle with that a little bit more?
I definitely struggled a lot more. I think it was more exercise was not as big a priority. It was okay, yeah, I train here and there, and it's, you know, I was still playing rugby, and it was a part of what I did, but it wasn't. It was never the priority. I never really prioritized my training. I think if I was going through tough patches, I would distract myself. A lot of going out, and like I've got a lot of friends on all sides of the spectrum. Friends who love going out, who out 2-3 nights a week. I've got friends who don't drink, and I still see all of them in that sense there. But I think when I was going through, anytime I'd face challenges, I would fill up with distractions, which is very easy to do, especially in a city like London. You know, it's so easy to get yourself distracted, taking up your time doing whatever you wanted to do. But when I think throughout COVID was such a reset for not just me, but a lot of people found it as a reset of, okay, let's start now. Can't go out, can't go to the pub on a Friday night. What are we going to do instead? And actually, I think that's where a lot of people found, especially endurance training, because gyms were closed. So people had running and they had a bike. Kind of it, really. So I think a lot of people found love for their endurance training at the time. Because also the other thing we had was a lot more free time. You know, endurance training, as you get better at it, becomes more and more time consuming. You know, gym, realistically, after 5-6 hours a week, you can't really add more. It's very highly diminishing returns. Whereas with endurance training, you have to continuously increase that amount of time spent to see improvement. So I think that's where a lot of people found endurance training. I know it was the first time in years I'd had time to go, well, okay, I've got 3 hours free today. Let's go run for an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, or jump on the bike for a couple of hours. Before then, it would be like, okay, I've got an hour to get a workout in the gym.
Yeah, tick the box, move on.
Tick the box, move on. Maybe something a bit more high intensity. But, you know, zone 2, I only don't know what zone 2 was in about 2019. So, yeah, I think since that period, and then, you know, allows you to, I think with endurance training is it requires so much planning and organization, and just through, as a byproduct of getting into it, you then have to organize other elements of your life and plan accordingly. So like for me now, Sunday evening is like planning at what time throughout the week am I going to do this session, this session, this session. It then kind of force you to be organized on the parts of your life. Okay, cool. Well, you know, I was supposed to be seeing so-and-so this day. Okay, well, let's actually, like, when am I seeing that person that day? Well, you know, and it asks a level of discipline of your time that often I never used to have before.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, because otherwise if you don't plan something properly, it often doesn't get done. Especially with the training, unless that's like, this is happening on this day, at this time, this is the thing here, it can often get brushed on the carpet.
I think the best thing of whatever it is, 5-6 hours a week in the gym, training for something mad, training for your first 5K, whatever it is, the sheer act of committing to it and getting some skin in the game is one of the most powerful things you can do for your day-to-day, because it forces you to stress test your systems, assess your priorities, look at how you structure your week, look at your commute, look at where you spend your time, look at where your gym membership is, look at how you allocate social time. And it makes you ask questions. What do I want to be doing? What should I be doing? Actually, what shouldn't I be doing? And then from there, you can allocate time accordingly, recalibrate, go through another evolution and recalibrate as you go. And I've learned more about myself and what's best for me on a day-to-day basis through continued reps in different disciplines over time. That's maybe much more effective overall. So I've kind of accelerated my self-development in many ways and just made myself a much more efficient human being by continuously committing to another intimidating, to me, important thing to mention, relative term, challenge, event, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's where, you'll be a different man come the back end of this training prep, I'm sure.
100%. I think the biggest thing this last 6 months is the amount of no's I've had to say to things. And that's not for good and for bad. So it's nice I can just say, I'm training this thing at the moment, I can't really commit to this and this. The other side of that is there are things I would have quite liked to do these last 6 months that I haven't been able to do, like go on holidays, travel with mates. I've had to say no to a lot of fun things for the sake of I need to get more rest in, I need to get more recovery in. You know, if I'm not hitting 9 hours of sleep at the moment, I'm feeling it the next day.
Yeah.
So that means I can't, you know, anything going on, it's like an automatic no, which is okay for a period of time. It's not the status quo. You know, we're only here for a short amount of time in life. We need to enjoy ourselves as much as it is to push ourselves. It can't all be that David Goggins-esque, going hard all the time. Like life is a balancing act, and life is immensely more enjoyable with other people in your life. And if you just say no to everyone all the time, eventually you get to a point where no one wants to invite you to anything or do anything with you because you're always spending your time running or training this thing. There's got to be, as you talk about, balancing the scales there that's in multiple different areas of life. There's going to be periods of the year where I'm training for events, training for things, but also I think it's okay to have like an off season in that sense. There, doing this in a non-professional setting means that it's very tempting, especially in social media, to go from challenge to event to challenge to event, challenge to event, without realizing, hang on a minute, like I've now just spent a year or 2 years only training for things, only doing this. I mean, the longest period of time I took off from training was post-challenge last year. I've pretty much 3 months of just relaxed training as and when I felt good. And that was a nice reset, because the first 6 weeks post-challenge, I felt just awful the whole time. And I tried to get back into running, going from running 572k over 10 days to then going, it took me months to build up to a 10k again, because my body was shot and I felt tired. I was fatigued. I also there wasn't a purpose behind it. I wasn't enjoying it, running for the sake of running, rather than going, I'm running for the purpose of enjoying this run. And that's why I gave a bit of time before going, right, what's something I want to do next? So I left a little bit of time. I ran a 70k in January just for a bit of fun. Wasn't going for like a specific time. It was just a case of like, loads of my friends from Run Club, we're all going to run the 70k. Let's run it together. It'll be a bit of a laugh. And it was a laugh. It was something to have an element of like structured training around over the Christmas period, which I think is really important.
So running, polar opposite to the singular moment, powerful focus of weightlifting, putting 200 kilos over your head versus going for a cruisy 30-minute 5K are two very, very different things. What have you discovered through exploring running that you didn't have access to with weightlifting? Because they're very different mental headspaces, they're very different focus points. Have you found benefits that have translated into your day-to-day life, or are you just enjoying the being a student again?
In being a student, I think it's a massive thing. I've not surrounded myself with someone who's necessarily educating me on running at this stage. I'm going out and running. I don't have an understanding of my times, how fast I'm going, how to take that jump from running at the speed that I am to running faster, because at the stage that I'm in, with it being so new, that's not important to me yet. I'm actually just doing the thing and understanding how I feel about it. It is very different in the sense that you start to become more in tune with your breathing, and it's a extended battle with yourself when you're running, because it's like you have that first 10 minutes I've found where I'm just like, I can just feel my heart rate going up, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do the 30 minutes or get to the 5K. And then you get through that first 10 minutes, a bit like what you were saying a minute ago about your half marathon time, when you got through that 7K, and then you start to settle in. And that's in itself a really nice feeling, when you start to feel settled in the run, which for me, the first few times never came, because it was so difficult for me to just finish the 5K. But now I'm doing it more consistently. I'm starting to feel the enjoyment of that last 10 minutes of a run, where I feel like I'm in a bit of a rhythm. And it's only been in the last, so just to give everyone a bit of context to this, I've probably only been running, I've probably only done about 25 Ks in my life, and that's all the running that I've done. So still very, very new. It's only been in the last 2 or 3 runs that I've been going out that when I've got to 5K, I felt, okay, I could probably keep going now. Albeit not very fast. I've started to unlock that. Okay, and now I'm starting to think maybe I could run 10K. And I think that's been the early stages for me. There's been absolutely zero carryover to Olympic weightlifting from doing running, other than my body composition is a hell of a lot better now. I'm doing that extended cardio alongside my CrossFit. But like you said, something that I've really enjoyed and I've been working on a lot in constructing my training now is balancing it with doing the strength training, and how that allots in a week to go, okay, the running isn't impacting the weightlifting and the weightlifting isn't impacting the running. But again, there's a component to my training from a bodybuilding aspect that I also want to include in it. So it's looking at how these three things marry up, so that I'm seeing progress, or at least maintenance in my weightlifting, whilst progressing in the other two areas, which is probably one of the most exciting parts of it all.
100%, 100%. And running is booming in popularity for a lot of the things that you just mentioned. And because of the accessibility of it, it doesn't cost a huge amount of money to get into at all. You can, for the most part, unless you live, I don't know, on a cliff or in a war zone or something, then you can open your front door and crack on. What has always not drawn me to CrossFit is how confined indoors it is.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, maybe it's growing up in Scotland, maybe it's the exposure to sport I had growing up, all things I'm very grateful for. I just morally reject the fact that a C2 bike is an indoor version of an outdoor thing to some degree. And if things can be done outdoors, they should be done outdoors.
Yeah.
So I always found it really fascinating that you decided to use that beard and training mentality to go out and do that. So from your perspective, training for the brutal versus the interior of a CrossFit gym, what were the different lessons that you extracted from kind of those opposing ends of the spectrum?
That's an interesting one. I think the brutal, as you know, doing a double, which is mad, by the way, because I remember when people were doing a double, I was thinking they're mad, is kind of 90% mindset. Even if you're fit and you train for a year or whatever, it hurts. It really hurts. Whereas I think, so that was maybe outside my comfort zone, because it was my mind that had to get me through that challenge. Whereas in the gym, I was using it as a social connection more than anything. And I came from a kind of fairly short distance running background. So the 20 minute workout was much better for me. I enjoyed it. Whereas getting on a bike and swimming through a lake, I didn't enjoy it. So it was all mindset.
Did you enjoy it afterwards? Type 2 fun?
It's type 2 fun, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely type 2 fun. Like last week I did Snowdon, this 24-hour Snowdon race, and that was definitely type 2 fun, because during it, it's not fun.
Did you 7? Was it
7? Yeah, 7 ascents. And that was, again, mindset, because again, I do have a high rocks now. It's a bit of running outside, but I'm still a CrossFitter, really. I still just go to the gym. It's different, isn't it?
It is. Again, it's why I was speaking with somebody yesterday. I think the most I've enjoyed something in the moment the past 5 years, 2 occasions, same mechanism, lifting the Dinny stones, my first strongman competition last summer. So both picking up natural
short
stones.
And sweet.
Immediate gratification of, has it moved or hasn't it? Whereas endurance is so drawn out that you get to the end, you're like, oh, thank fuck it's done. I'll think about this tomorrow.
That is a more eloquent way of putting it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think CrossFit is it's 20-minute gratification. You can see the end. It hurts, but you'll be better after 30 seconds. With an endurance event, you don't enjoy it really until afterwards.
Unless you're incredibly mentally conditioned in certain ways, or quite twisted.
Yeah, and but you do need that. Obviously, you've done way more than me. But what I found last week was you do need it. I was kind of in a position in my life where I was craving a test of mindset rather than a test of physical ability in the gym.
Was there anything in the business that was driving that, do you think?
I just think occasionally, I do, and most people do, I think need to step out of the comfort zone to physically to make you realise what you can do personally and professionally. And the thing I did last weekend, it was 24 hours of kind of, the only thing you can really think about is looking at the floor so you don't fall on your face. And after 24 hours, you realise you haven't thought about anything apart from the floor. And when can you do that in life?
Very rare, especially in a big city.
You can't.
You've got a lot going on in terms of the next phase of what's happening.
Yeah.
Was it all up the mountain path?
It was all up the mountain path, yeah.
Yeah, which isn't the most exciting path in the world.
It's boring as well. Yeah.
Very point blank question. Are you still almost masking some of the things that you need to confront in your own head through running towards the pain?
Depends how hard I convince myself. To start with, I was very much in the running away, using it to kind of turn the volume down in my head, to quieten the voices, and just to kind of keep. Again, there was no awareness, but I think with every experience, with every race, with every place that you see, the reason you do it evolves, it changes, and as you learn more and more about how you enjoy those things, then I feel like it's a difficult question to answer. There probably will always be an element of using it in that kind of slightly more negative way, because I don't think that part of you ever really leaves. It's always there. It's part of your experience, and it's part of makes you. But I feel like over the last few years, I've cultivated enough tools to be able to use it as something that is helpful and is helping me live a life that is aligned with who I really am, which is another part of what the therapy was so good at, and also like understanding your values, not from a sense of honesty, integrity, these blanket terms that really mean fuck all.
They're on walls in recruitment offices.
Yeah, sure. It's understanding your values from a point of what do you actually do? Like what do you turn to when shit hits the fan? That was something that I recognized within myself. That when shit hits the fan, I turn to exercise. I can trust exercise to make me feel better about myself. And yes, it might be a coping mechanism in that moment, but that coping mechanism might just create that little bit of space for me to address the thing that needs to address later. So I think definitely have started to use it more so as a way to kind of improve my life.
Yeah. I often find I tap into the past a little bit more when I'm right up against it, which is the thing that often makes me reflect on, are you trying to prove something to an older version of yourself here, or is this genuinely, in your heart of hearts, a self-discovery, forward motion exercise? And I think it is the latter, but I do sometimes find myself thinking, well, essentially, why the fuck are you doing this? I have to stand there and go, right, okay, let's reflect on the past. And I think a lot of it comes down to being very grateful for the fact that I get to do this stuff, having spent a period of my life with no concept of what the future looked like or whether the future even had me in it. And I think that's why the word explore is one of the main pillars with why I do everything I do from a training point of view. It's because you've got a heavy Atlas stone at one end of the spectrum, and then you've got a stupidly long run at the other end. And there's lots of different exploration points along that spectrum. And I think there's lots of different value to extract from them. But I think people get too caught up in their own little boxes, thinking that this box is the best, that box is the best. Fuck you. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing that? Haha. Triathletes, why choose to be average at 3 sports rather than 1, says the average runner. And it's just like, well, why are we here? And why aren't we just happy that people are extracting value from things that they could otherwise not be doing? And I think you said something that was really at the core of how I think, which is this helping me? I can't remember how you worded it, but is this helping me be the person who I want to be or the person who I want to become? And I can imagine you have a much better understanding of who that person is now than you did before the therapy, before the ultra running, for example. So who is that person, and sort of what are the values at the core of why you do what you do now? There's
also the accepting the fact that who I am now is going to be very different to the person I am in, like based on experience. But who I am now is someone that I feel like gratitude, like you mentioned, being grateful for what we get to do. I'm grateful. I'm at a point now where I feel like I'm grateful for as grateful as I can be for every single experience that's got me to this point today. And I feel like what I'm doing now is a reflection of those lessons. And who that person is someone that wants to, where I derive kind of value now, it comes from many different places, but, and I don't want it to sound wanky, like some sort of Miss World thing, but like the service to others, like I gained so much from that ultramarathon experience. It's the reason I'm coaching now is because I want to help people find their own version of whatever that was that I found in it. I'm really, that gets me going. Like well, that sounds a bit weird, but like it really excites me. Like the prospect of being able to help someone, like I wanted to be helped back when I was playing rugby, find that in themselves. So that's cool. But also,
you want to give them the key.
I'm going to steal that. I need to give them the key.
Yeah, take it.
So that's one aspect of it. But also with a team sport, there's so much value to be drawn from that team sport and that environment and how that can lift everyone involved. And I found myself at a point now where I'm very grateful. It was a complete accident this happened, but I've been able to put on my own multi-stage ultramarathon. This will be the 3rd year this year. And it's a 250k multi-stage event. And it's not a race. It's simply a challenge. So where there was conflict between individuals playing rugby, within this environment, there is no conflict between individuals. It's not a race. The whole purpose of the thing is to finish 250k, which, like I've said already, is a massive achievement in itself. And the way you get there is by supporting yourself, supporting others. And there's a team goal, there's a common goal. Like we spoke very briefly about, like that primal aspect. Like the goal was to get food for the camp. The goal is for everyone to raise money for a charity that is going to give back to people in the way that is given to us. So who I am, I like to think is a representation of that environment. I'm trying to create that, like the sense of community.
What are the things that you've taken away from ultra endurance? Because, I mean, the lessons that I've taken away from it have changed me as an individual. It's changed business systems. It's changed priorities. It's changed what I want from life. Because, and I think the most important thing is, it's given me the undistracted time away from a very busy and chaotic world to actually just think about those things.
Yeah.
And you've come from a very stimulated, fast-paced, high-intensity background. Probably the background those people were saying you need to...
and addictive personality, like
all these things. All these things. Compound them all, and then you've got an agent or an agency, I'm assuming, saying, no, stop doing the fitness stuff. We need to be doing the fast fashion. We need to be doing the appearances. We need to be doing all this. And you're fighting against that with an addictive personality and ADHD. Big battle going on there. I assume you really, really needed that undistracted peace and time to unpack things. So what are the big lessons you've taken away from ultras?
Well, so the 220, one of the biggest things I learned was like, it's so hard that little things day to day don't seem that hard anymore. And I have this conversation with my girlfriend sometimes, like maybe it's because we're different people in a sense, but like little things like get to her sometimes. And I'm very like chilled out in myself, and issues aren't that big like most of the time. So I think I can navigate life just a little bit better with it. But the whole experience, like you said, with just time in your thoughts, like I did 30 odd hours with no music the whole time, just no headphones, just ran through Africa. Like it was like amazing, like miserable and amazing, but also the whole experience where you remove yourself from social media and internet in a campsite, like with a load of other people doing exactly the same thing. It was just like a life-changing experience, which I kind of said straight after I wouldn't do it again, and then within like a couple of weeks I made plans to do something even bigger and way worse. But
I've been there,
literally. But yeah, that was one of the biggest things, was just to remember to switch off and remove myself from, we say the real world, but that's actually the real world. That's like how we're meant to be. We're meant to be like that. We're meant to be like running all day and like hunting for food, and like we're not meant to be doing what we're kind of doing now. And I feel like that's really important.
You will be so much better prepared for when a variable in your day-to-day life goes wrong, because of the amount of times you've had to deal with that in a contrived setting. And that will make you better at decision making as to when is it time to put your foot to the floor and go, and when is it time to, you know what, foot off the throttle, 10-minute power nap on the side of the road, and then I'll pick things back up, as a metaphor for, let's say, a challenging life. But I think the value in this stuff is massive. How do you think the value of the training and events that you've done has actually developed you as a person outside of that?
I think I'm not as like, for personality wise, I'm probably not as like, I'm a lot more kind of like, what will be kind of, which I think, I'm a kind of take it as I'm like quite relaxed in the sense of, things as in running, things go wrong. So kind of things in life go wrong. And kind of whatever happens for a reason happens for a reason. And I'm not kind of, until now, I've not really had any brands that have believed in me. So I think I haven't been earning probably money that a 25-year-old as such, kind of in that linear world, is earning. But I've been quite happy just kind of living my simple-ish life and kind of things. I think for me, financially, I've had to take a cut until kind of now as such, which I think has been a big thing. I think if I'd gone into a salary job and each month I knew I was going to get X, Y, and Z, it'd really help, rather than kind of having to forecast and be like, okay, it's a good month because I've worked with that brand or whatever. So I think I've probably got a different kind of outlook on life in the sense of take as it comes and kind of what happens. And yeah, my sister, she's an accountant and has a very well paid job and worked very, very hard in a different way. And she, you know, buys new things the whole time, or like, you know, kind of thing, relatively. Whereas I probably have to be more careful, but I've chosen not to have that kind of 9 to 5 office job. So I think probably it just made me realise that kind of what will be and take life as it comes.
I think important to underline, from my perspective anyway, nothing wrong with that linear progression and the sort of situation. It's just my interaction with it was bad.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I didn't acknowledge how bad it was for me until it almost destroyed me. So I think it's important if you feel yourself a little bit lost or not where you want to be, exploring, pushing yourself in a controllable setting out with your day-to-day environment can be a very valuable tool to help you figure some things out.
And you can do both. Like my sister's like my biggest inspiration as well. She is an absolute boss bitch when it comes to work. She's doing so unbelievably well. Working as an accountant, as I said, working in I want to say investment management, but I'm not sure if it's that kind of vibe. And she runs ultras, and you know, she gets up every morning to go to the gym and she hustles, and I have more respect for her than I have for myself in the sense of kind of like, you know, she does it all. And you know, she's got the certain amount of holiday, and that certain amount of holiday, she last year used about 10 of those days to go and run ultras. I also think I did a post on this earlier, like comparison is the thief of joy, and I genuinely think that kind of in life and anything, whether it is work or whether it's relationships or whether it's like sport, I think it is the biggest thief for joy. Yeah.
Especially with plenty of opportunity for comparison in our pockets at all times.
Completely.